Recording in progress.
Is that early for us?
Just pause the recording.
I think it was.
All right, I'm calling. All right, thank you. I'm calling Village of Cross Plains Board of Trustees meeting of September 23rd, 2024. So order roll call, please.
Trustee Bratton,
Here.
trustee Brunner,
Here.
trustee Borkart, here, trustee Brooklyn,
Here.
trustee Polakowski,
Here.
trustee Calvin, here, president Langfeld.
Here, please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the village board encourages input from residents and may not discuss or act on any issue that's not duly noticed on the agenda. We have anybody here that would like to speak about on the computer? No? All right, we'll go to the consent agenda. On request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Does anybody want anything pulled off the consent agenda? All right, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right. We're at report of village officers. I have nothing that's not on the agenda.
On September 6th, Renee Bratton was here 36 years. That is crazy. Good for her. That's amazing. That's all I have to say.
All right.
Congratulations.
Other trustee reports. Cody?
October 5th is the Evan Cradwell cross country meet here at town. Is in the some people at that, so just be aware of it, go out and support it. It's a great cause.
Right. Anybody else? Sarah?
And as a part of it, there's a 2-mile community run, so you can still sign up.
Do we contact you to sign up?
I think she says that with a big smile on her face. All right, anybody else? All right, village administrator, Carly?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you all for allowing me to be here as your new village administrator. So this is my first board meeting. But a report that I did have was for the DNR stewardship grant that we had for the Xander Park Pavilion. We got a lot more funding than we expected. So we got $249,000 in total. And so we're very excited about that.
Very nice. All right, any other village department head? Anybody from back there? All right. We will move to general business, discussion and possible action regarding resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of 1,015,000 general obligation promissory note series 2024A. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Does anybody have any tricks here for this? Does anybody have any questions for him? You know, we talked about it at the last meeting.
We talked about it, but there wasn't anything in the packet about how they.
Right, I
The
know.
sale was today.
So that's today. So
Okay.
go ahead. This is your opportunity. Judy, do you have a question?
I couldn't find a rate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There wasn't any of that in the packet. None of the radar that did stuff wasn't
Well,
included.
I don't think that's happened.
They've not seen,
Oh,
no.
I can go through kind of the summary of the sale results. So we got 5 bids this morning. The final true interest rate came in at 3.2983%. So the total principal and interest costs over the 10-year life of the notes came in $43,046 less than what we estimated last month. So the total debt service costs are better than what we had projected. So good number of bids. In terms of the debt service impact for next year, And since you met a month ago and had some further conversations with Carly and Bobby as you were working on the 2025 budget, they wanted to kind of structure the debt service payment, so the levy increase that we had projected last month might be a little less for next year, so the debt service levy is projected to go up about $45,000, including this note issue. And then, looking ahead, you'll recall last month, we kind of presented a multi-year financing plan that included your proposed village hall and police station, and other capital projects. Going forward, given that level of capital investment, there would be, some more significant levy impacts to the debt service levy beyond kind of the $45,000 increase that you'll see from 2024 to 2025. Kind of in that long-range plan, if everything was funded, your debt service levy increase going forward would probably be closer to about $110,000 per year. So, those are decisions for future in terms of as you look at your capital plan, but you've got some notable projects, particularly with the, village hall facility and some other road projects. So, typically as you update your capital plan, we update the long-range financial plan, but just kind of wanted to give that preview that as you're looking at some more significant investment, that impact to the levy is going to be a little bit higher.
All right, any questions?
No, I guess I don't have any questions. Thank you for going over that.
Sure.
We had seen that. We
Yeah.
get copies of that from one of us. Do you have what he has with the sales stuff in the PDF?
Yeah, we can provide those to you after the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, the sale was this morning, so we typically conduct the sale on the date of the meeting. So that the underwriters are submitting bids knowing that they're going to be acted upon in fairly short order because interest rates in the bond market change on a daily basis. So we typically, the sale was at 10 o'clock this morning, so we kind of compile all the results and get staff has the report with all the results and all the updates to the financial analysis that was presented last month, including the laws and vision.
definitely. Okay, yeah, thank you. Cool.
No, thank you, because I was confused, but thank you.
And the only other comment I'll make is the final amount of the note issue on your agenda, it was $1,015,000, which was kind of what we'd estimated and what we went to market with. The cost of issuance came in less, so the actual final amount that you're awarding is $995,000. So you get the same amount for projects, have to issue less debt to fund them, which is always a good outcome.
Thank you.
A lot of positive there.
Yeah, I will say one thing though. I know you guys talked and it sounded like you got the levy increase, just the 45. I did like the larger increase that was gonna happen this year because we were gonna have future projects. And we've been holding steady at about $1 million in terms of debt service over the last 5, 6, and there hadn't been any increase in that, even with inflation going on. I felt that our levy should be supporting more debt as we're gonna start taking on larger projects sooner the better. And so when I saw it the last time, I liked it, but.
And we had a long discussion about it and I went back and forth at least 10 times, and so it was. Yeah,
Oh, good. That was just when I saw it. I was like, hey, this is great. I kind of been thinking I wanted to see a bump in our debt service levy amount because it's been holding steady for so long.
Yeah, and my only comment on that is we know rates are gonna be, who knows where rates are going, so I was glad we were able to lock that.
All righty, well, thank you for coming, Greg, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, number 2, discussion and possible action.
Really?
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's do a roll call vote, please.
trustee Bratton,
Yes.
trustee Borger,
Yes.
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
Yes.
trustee Borland,
Yes.
trustee Kettler,
Yes.
president Lincoln.
Yes. I'm glad everybody's watching me. I was testing you, just to see if you were paying attention. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, 2, discussion and possible action regarding sewer utility capital project cost estimates. Evans, go ahead.
We're flying because you wanted to get to this one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Before I get started, I did see one thing on the news that we recognize post 245 American Legion celebrated 100 years. So here's to the veterans. That's my pitch. So 2 months ago, July meeting, we talked about a sewer capital project plan coming to the board with a draft form. So we threw in 2 cover sheets, I'll call them, one for the street side, one for the sewer side of a list that between us at Town and Country and Gary and Ted went through here's what we've got on the, what we think we've got on the horizon for some needs related to the sewer utility.
Getting there.
Yep. I'll let you get there.
Sorry.
One more.
One more. Okay.
So on the municipal side, the street side, collection system, however you wanna look at it. Brian and Jerry went through, number of projects. Again, we're just looking at draft list of needs at the moment. A lot of them emphasis on Park Street being in bold, flat sanitary sewer. They've done some televising, which triggers a lot of the comments about root intrusion and joints infiltration. Stormwater entering the sanitary sewer system basically through old leaky pipes. They're either broken, have root intrusion, you name it. Every time there's a rain event, that water makes it into the sanitary sewer, makes it down to plant. The more I&I, the worse off the plant is. So we try to button up these collection systems and address aging infrastructure in the collection system to do so. For the sake of these estimates, Brian broke out the general fund, water utility, sewer utility, and put the total on the far right, as we alluded to a couple months ago. If there's no clean water fund or safe drinking water fund, these costs can get shifted however you guys deem necessary. If they are funded, the general fund portions only get covered 20% by the respective water or sewer loan. That's a new rule that's been imposed. So if there was a, go ahead.
Cause it was actually good for us, because it's kind of complicated, but any amount that the general fund would cover for the DNR loans, so we actually can't levy for that, so. Anyway,
Say that again, Bobby, for you to say.
I know I shouldn't say, so like the DNR loan, say we borrow $1 million. And half of it's sewer and half of it's general fund.
Right.
So the half that's paid by the general fund would count against our levy limit, like we can't. Like regular GO borrowing doesn't count against our levy limit.
Right.
But loan payments towards
The clean.
revenue funds would count against our levy limit.
I got you. So whenever
But
that's done, whenever the general fund budget or borrows money for water sewer, that all gets put on the levy.
So then, yeah, the opposite is true, if we, like, for the borrowing we did tonight, 225 of that is paid by the water fund. So we can levy for the whole payment, even though the water utility pays part of it. So the two scenarios, as long as they even out, or,
I got you.
so it's kind of confusing,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
So
I
when we're getting
understand
to
what
a
you're
point where we wanna make sure we're not doing too much general borrowing on DNR loans, because otherwise we'll get ourselves in trouble.
And that's part of why they imposed this 20% threshold. This used to be pretty easy to declare 90% of the road was a sewer problem because we had to rip it up. And they're trying to crack down on it to limit it to just 20%. I say all that because it's relatively new to what you guys just went through with the Brewery Road project. The theme with this one is if wherever there's money to pull from, if there's not borrowing, you guys can make that shuffle happen. To put more or less on the respective. So we just broke these out in columns, just straight by their discipline. But
Hang on,
those are shifted around.
But isn't even though the sewer utility paid cash for Brewery Road, isn't it holding the loan of the DNR water loan, safe drinking?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Safe drinking is water, clean as sewer.
well, whatever, but, okay, so I'm trying to figure out. It doesn't seem like that's consistent to what was just said today, this just recently, so. The sewer paid cash, but yet it's taking the loan for it, but we can't put it against, it goes against the levy limit, if I'm understanding. So I'm trying to figure out,
It could,
help me,
yeah. So assuming we didn't have any other GO borrowing that had water and sewer portions to it, then we. Right, then the part that we quoted to streets. We'd have to levy for that. it wouldn't be exempt from the regular geo. No, it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. We'll have, I don't wanna waste
I was
time
gonna say, I
here,
should've
because this
brought
is
it up
probably
this
what a lot of
Brewery
people, I
roads.
need to understand that, because it's not making sense to me now.
They're offsetting one against. the
Well, I hear that, but I'm not sure what happens is, okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
but how it fits in with Brewery Road.
Yeah, that's,
Your guys' recipe for Brewery Road's a bad example, for what I'm trying to pitch here.
okay, because it's not making sense to what I know we did in Brewery Road,
Let's
to what
just-
you're saying right now.
Park, if
Okay,
we wanted to do a clean water fund and a safe drinking water fund for a Park Street project. Today, it would be that 360 and that 206 would be your safe drinking water and clean water fund respectively. Plus, each of them could take 20% out of that street number and storm number and put that on the revenue bond also. That's how the new scenario looks. Yeah, again, if you're funding it, if not, those can get shifted.
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying on that, I understand, okay. All right.
And so again, I'll emphasize the draft on all of this, footnotes there, they're assuming, full replacement of curb and gutter, we're assuming full sidewalk. And then storm sewer is as is, we haven't done any detailed design on any of those, so. This list again was the first pass at, some of the things that staff has identified as problem areas, aging areas out in the collection system. To the tune of $5.5 million. None of these are in imminent danger of the road caving in, but they've been identified as problem areas that need some attention in the future.
We're not putting a new sidewalk to Wilson Street though, right?
Well, that
There's no
we-
added sidewalk, is my question.
No, if it's there today, we just assumed a blanket replacement and it's replacing kind.
I wondered.
I didn't want to go.
And yeah, to be clear, none of these until this point are on the docket for, none of this has been designed, none of this is being bid, it's. Look at the aerial, look at the maps and say it's this much pipe at this size, there's this much road and this much sidewalk. That's how we get to those numbers.
So can I ask, why are you suggesting these streets? These,
These in no, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, no particular order, just basically how they were listed in their discussion, with the comments section being kind of what drives it. Is that flat sanitary sewer is detrimental for selecting debris. And then your roots and your offset joints and your infiltration are all of those I components that I mentioned earlier.
The order is simply we started the list on the west side of the
okay, sounds good.
So that's outside the fence. The next page then is also in draft form on a high priority, medium priority, low priority arrangement of things that we have heard from at staff level are important, and also things that we have seen at other facilities that around this 20-year threshold become potentially more catastrophic issues the longer they go. The high priority one of most substance, as you guys saw on the well project, is the electrical equipment. To get new motor control centers, we're still a year out. So one of the things across the board, not just across Plains thing, but people are looking at, communities are looking at their 20-year-old facilities and saying, if this MCC goes down, how bad is that gonna be? And the answer is usually not very good. And then in order to get it back out to you in the working order is still a year out in most cases. So that one is of emphasis. There's a lot of equipment and HVAC dating back to the 98 and 2005 projects. Those big ticket items in the high priority item or high priority category around 2.7 number. And then as you go down, medium priority being probably a 5 to 10 year outlook would be a 2.1, and then low priority being further out is, we've got estimated at 1.3. So we've kind of taken culmination of staff input and just things that we know that are at the facility that have not been addressed since the last major project, and said, here's what it would cost today to get these things done. Definitely open to structure on high, I mean, it's all draft form for you guys. The ultimate goal here is lay out something that you guys can turn to for what do we need to do in the future and what's important to you, maybe different than what's important to us, but this was just our first crack at it. With the theme being, it's 20 years old and there's stuff that's running quite literally 24/7 around the clock. You guys have a nice facility, but in some conditions that are not favorable for anybody to be working that long in. Eventually they wear out, so we've tried to emphasize those things as being important to the sewer utility in the near future. So I guess my marching orders from here, we would take all of this, put together some form of a memo and narrative to document this and get some more input from staff on it. And this would be something that could hopefully be a living document for you guys moving forward to start prioritizing sewer utility work.
And go ahead, Michael.
When you say things are running 24/7, are they supposed to be or
Yes.
not? Okay.
Some of them no, but there are a handful of them that absolutely, they cannot shut off or treatment does not happen.
Okay, well, when you said that, you made it sound like it was bad that they were running all the time. Okay.
I wish we could start on stop plants. O&M would be a lot less too.
Right, but that's like when you say those are the systems that were out. The ones that run 24/7,
Those ones are, if those go down, you're in trouble.
we're in trouble.
And that's where, yeah, the oxidation ditch equipment, the sludge thickening equipment's on 24/7. You've got things that are, the oxidation ditch is the first one on medium. They're spinning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's bearings, there's drives, there's gearboxes, all of that. And to be clear, staff has done great with maintenance. The oil changes are, I mean, things are being kept up. But eventually we try to get ahead of these and systematically prioritize replacements before you get to a catastrophic event.
The electrical panels, electrical controls concern me the most because there is no maintenance, you know. They run hot year round, hotter in the summer, actually. But, it does have an impact on us. We've had a few failures so far. We got lucky at, spare parts we could jury rig in to make it work until the new ones came, but the last VFD that died took 7 months to come. Yeah, run that pump on hand without various drive. The electrical worries me that there could be a major failure there. And that will affect our ability to produce.
I just got a follow-up. Why hasn't any of this stuff been in our capital improvement plan? So, I mean, I've looked at 10 years worth of it and I haven't seen it mentioned or anything in for the sewer plant. I've been to probably 60+ staff meetings and this is the first time. I think if that is a worry, then we should probably get something on the SIP to start addressing some of these things.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions? So you're just looking to get AOK to put this into a narrative report or memo?
I signed up last time for I'd have a draft of it ready, so that you guys would have some numbers to help you with the budgeting process, so.
Okay.
We're gonna, I mean, we can wrap it up or keep it open as long as necessary to shift stuff around. I want it to be a useful thing beyond 2 pages at a board meeting, so. However that looks for you guys, we're happy to do so. I just wanted to make sure we held up our end of the bargain for.
Sure, I think what would be helpful is obviously put this, I don't mind the matrix that you have here, but put it into a draft, and then I think Jerry and his staff need to come up with a plan on getting things submitted to the capital improvement plan, like, you know, that we have. That's the whole idea of that, so we can start planning for that.
Well, that we get a motion.
No, we don't need it. It's the discussion part.
Yeah, it was.
As long as Evan knows and Jerry knows, so.
Work with them to make sure it's useful for the next steps in the process.
Yeah.
To make sure you guys have numbers in front of you for your upcoming meetings.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding sewer utility rate adjustment. You should all have received my memo on that. Are there any questions that you have on it? All right.
After what he just said, is that something we're still comfortable with?
Yeah, so here, and I'll help with that. As you know, there's already almost $2.5 million in there. Right, for fund balance, so that covers just about everything in the 0 to 5 year one. And the 245,000 that we're not touching, that's going into the sewer utility, at 5%, you can borrow 3.2 million. And if you look at what we just ended up getting it at 3.2, it's probably closer to 4.5 million just on that money. And that's not counting the new money that's coming in with the residents and the new customers and stuff. So even with these numbers, I'm still very comfortable with it. And again, just because we reduce it now, doesn't mean in 10 years, we can't raise rates if we need to start doing it, but.
Is that what your projection is like 8 to 10 years?
Oh, no, if we would stay as we are right now, this would be 20 years before we burn up 245,000, unless we have to borrow, large amounts, but these are all increased. Our fund balances are continuing to increase. I mean, you look at, like the liquidation, that's almost at $500,000. That's $3,000 for every unit that comes into, the village here. And we all just think about it, we already know that there's gonna be 10 more units on that one apartment. We did 7 units on the apartment building, and they're going, right? And that's, we got still half a creek crossing with Viridian, you still got Scenic Valley. And I'm also thinking there'll be other developers coming in. So, yes, the numbers to me come out if someone can. And we're doing 45% only giving back to customers. I just can't, in good conscience, not give back some of this back with it. That would be putting in $450,000 back into that. That would be borrowing, would be able for us to borrow $7-8 million. That's a lot of capital. So I'm still for this, and this is another thing, like I say, this to me is conservative, and we can certainly every year keep an eye on it. But I can't come up with a good reason, even with the data that we got tonight, why we can't give some money back to the users of this. They have paid for 20 years, for this sewer plant. It's over. Some of that money should go back. I have no problem in keeping it. And like I say, it's still $245,000.
What's the average end user savings?
Well, I just did mine. Mine would be $100, and I would consider I'm probably in the low 10%.
$100 annually.
Yeah, it would kind of offset the water.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, we would need a motion. But is there any other, I'm interested in hearing where other people are coming from.
I mean, we all know the biggest complaint in the village is the cost of water.
Yeah, I agree.
At an $8-9 a month savings, I also like, is that
Yeah, I don't know,
worth it?
I don't know if it's worth going
It-
through and adjusting.
I
for
love the
$2
idea.
a month when you can retain this for possibly a electrical replacement where we don't have to borrow for it, et cetera.
But you're just telling me how you wanted to borrow more.
I wanted to pay off more on the levy is what I was saying.
Oh, I thought you wanted more debt service.
Well, yeah, that's what I was, I wanted
Okay.
to pay the debt off quicker, so then when we have capital projects like Village Hall and Pool, you start preemptively paying
Right.
$100,000, $250,000 more, you then are decreasing your level is what I was saying, because that hadn't risen in so much time.
This is so much, this is the part that I've had a problem with, to be honest with you, the whole sewer thing has got me to be on the board the very first time in the early 2003s when we were constructing. I never understood why sewer was treated so differently than we do with water and general fund. General fund, we went down because our fund balance was 31%. We went down to 25%, even though you look at what the general fund we were looking to pay for, the village hall, the pool, roads and everything. And here, we're in just out of the ballpark in fund balance. And now rate of return, to me, you just can't justify that to the citizens. I will no longer say the sewer rates need to be this high. They paid off a $450,000 a year debt.
Mhm.
They should get something back. And this whole thing on, well, we should, it's only $10. No, politicians, we went to the public and said, we need to raise your water rate $10 to pay for a well and everything. So now this is going up. I don't understand how we cannot say, hey, you get this back because we paid this off. This is what I think is just fair and reasonable to the residents. And you may not think $100 is a lot, but it's not just $100. It's showing that as policymakers, we are going to adjust not only in spending everything, but also in giving back some savings. These people paid off this sewer plant. And I just don't think we should continue to take that kind of money from them. We're still taking, in my opinion, I think we should give back 400,000, to be honest with you. But I went conservative because I'm willing to see how it goes in a couple of years in it. But, to me, this is absolutely, a small amount. We're talking about 205,000 out of 450. The rest of it's going in there. Plus, if you look at just the numbers I did, you're looking at another 133 that it's getting, and I'm guessing next year is going to be very similar to that. I mean, how much money does the sewer utility need to do, to build up? That would be the next step. If you guys feel that we need that the 2.4 million, then we got to decide what our cap is, just like we did with the general fund. Water utility, it was 4%. That's what public service, if you read state statute, anything over 6%, you have to have a hearing on it. All right? I mean, we're up in double digits here. The rate of return is just out of the world. I just don't think we can, to me, I just can't justify not returning some to, and that still gives us a rate of return of 31%, I think it was. 32%. That's a huge rate of return. Doug?
I'm in favor.
Cameron?
Bobby, I'm curious if you looked at this and crunched some numbers or have some thoughts or.
I have not crunched the numbers. I will say that we would need to do the rates. I think, obviously the operations are gonna get paid for, it's just the extra that was going towards the debt service, how do you guys want to spend that 450,000? Do you wanna give some back? Do you wanna put it towards these projects, save up for projects? It's a policy decision. I guess on the July agenda, we did have an item for essentially hiring Town and Country to do a cash flow analysis. Propose a couple of different rate options, so you guys could see if we did this with rates, this would happen. I know Jay's, has, reduced rates 10%. Well, what does that mean? The rate, we don't just have one sewer rate. There's multiple rates built into that, so I don't know that any of us are comfortable with figuring out how we calculate what the new rate structure should be to get to the proposed numbers.
It was not a difficult thing. I took 10% off of all the different, in the audit, and it broke it down by commercial, industrial, and residential. I just took 10% off the straight amount of,
Right, but I'm
Total
saying like
cost,
there's
so-
a flat rate plus a usage rate.
it's 10% off of all of it. It was a straight 10% off. Couldn't have been any simpler. That's what I meant. I made it as simple as possible. It was just 10%. So the base is down 10%, the usage is down 10%. That's how you get your revenue, right? So that's,
I feel like it's a little more complicated than what you're thinking.
well, it certainly is a little bit. The complication part of it will not make a significant difference in it. Well, we've been paying the 450,000, right? I mean,
Well,
Let's
I'm
put it
just
as
saying, like, I
simple
don't
as we
think that
can.
I'm comfortable being the one to come up with the rates, and then if it's all.
I don't think you have, I think the board is a policy from the board, and I think if we pass this, it's 10% July 1st of next year and 5% before, so it's a total of 15%. It's nothing on you to do that, that would be here. I think people are trying to make this more confusing than it needs. It's no different when you pay off your mortgage, you have that extra money, everything else stays the same. But now you have that money, this is a mortgage, that's what this is. It's not gonna add anything to operational costs or anything like that. It's a cost for paying off a loan to build wastewater treatment plant. It's that simple. Now, the question would be, if you think 200, how you take the 205,000 and break it up. I did it simple by just doing a straight 10% across the board. If people think residents should get more than industrial or commercial, or we want to just take it off base and not take it off usage. I mean, those are small things. It's not going to really make a huge difference when you do the numbers. I don't understand what variable you're worried about that you think that this might not be correct. That's what I'm trying to get.
Well, when we do the water rates, we pay a consultant $20,000. I'm not saying we need to pay $20,000. I'm just saying that the rate structure is more complicated than just taking 10% off of each.
Okay, so-
Michael,
I understand your analogy, talking about you paid off a mortgage, you should get money back. But looking at what was just submitted with Evan, it's like your mortgage is over, but you have to replace all the pipes in your house because they all rotted out, which is what's going on underneath the streets. So it's not like this is, okay, that's done, but other parts of the system have to be repaired. And just by retaining some of that money, when we go out to get loans to replace the motor control systems or to replace these, then those loans don't have to be as large. And they go through the whatever's involved in reducing this rate, and we don't have to when it's a savings of $10 a month per resident. It's not that much to actually bank some money to actually do these repairs that are gonna be coming down, is what I'm saying. I understand you get it back, but at the exact same time, we're gonna have to turn around and get it again.
no, we're not.
Every year.
Show me on any SIP where it shows that by 2029, where we have to take loans out. There's nothing. And this is what
You just asked them to put it on there.
Right, but my point is, it seems like, and I'm just, it might be a huge coincidence, but every time I call a meeting to talk about sewer rates, all of a sudden, these things come up, like, that's where this came from. There are some that, don't wanna do it, and I'm fine with that position. And I'm fine with this here, but doing the numbers, even in that 0 to 5 category, The amount that we have right now that we're not giving back to residents can pay for everything plus more. Do the math. Do 245,000 payment on a 20-year loan at 5%, you can do 3.2 or something like that. That's at 5%. We just did one at 3.25. So at 3.25, you could probably get up to 4 million. That takes you almost through the 10-year one. So there is money there for that. I'm not stripping it down that we're gonna be looking for money all of a sudden. We already have enough in the bank to cover a lot of that, right?
We do.
Okay, so what you're saying is if we have all that and you agree that we're able to do up to $5 to $6 million right now. Just think of what the money that'll be coming in the 10 years from now. How much does this sewer utility have to have in the bank to satisfy people? I mean, come on, let's look at what we're doing we don't have nearly that in the water. And why? Because we can't. The state steps in and says, this is reasonable. This is what is reasonable. What do we do for GO? We have it set at 20%. We were at 31, we knocked it down to 25 because we thought 31% was too much. And here at the sewer rate, we just got a boatload of money. And like I say, that's healthy. I'm not batting anything. I think that's great. And again, what I'm asking for is less, I'm asking for 45% of the money that we're paying for this debt to go back to the residents of Cross Plains. That still leaves you $245,000 to go out and get a loan if you want. And that's gonna be easily, at today's rate, probably $3.5 to $4 million. We have $2.4 million in the bank. And the numbers that I use for coming what we have right now, they are from the office. We had 25 new hookups from January 1st to August 31st. We have, you see how that built because all those people had to pay for their liquid and biosolid connection fees. And then I used my rates at 2,500 gallons. I'm sure most of you guys use probably more than 2,500 than what my wife and I use. And that still comes out to an extra $16,000 a year. So it's probably, these were all low numbers. Everyone was low. So, and I would be more inclined to agree with you if we didn't have any growth, but we continue to have growth. And we certainly burn up the growth that we get in equalized value for the levy limit. And I just don't know why we can't give some of this back to the people who have been paying for years. And our policy for everything else has been users pay for what, so when we need it, we borrow and they do it. I don't understand why people right now have to pay for something that might be 20 years down the road. Doesn't seem fair to me.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are the biosolid connection fees and the liquid connection fees, are those restricted at all? Are they only allowed to be spent on things from inside the?
Yes, the biosolid ones, I believe, were always used to pay like the Dan Iowa fees. And then,
The liquid are just for updates at for the sewer plant.
yeah,
Originally, they were to offset. We originally, back in 2003, 2005, they were used to offset the actual operating costs. Then it moved to where we didn't need that, we were bringing in enough, so then they were kind of just stationary. And then I want to say in probably I brought it up with the auditors, remember that? I want to say that was probably 2019, we got the language in there to identify that money. And it has definitely grown.
yeah, so it can't just be spent on anything, there are like specific things, but it would be some of the things on this list.
Well, just what on this list would it not be covered? It's not, it's for the plan. And we have another 700,000 for the plan.
That's what I was wondering also, is the equipment replacement for the inside or the outside of the fence?
That's the inside.
Equipment's inside,
Yep,
so the appreciation is outside?
that's what I'm guessing for the whole thing. You'd have to talk to the accountant. If you remember the stabilization fund, that's where we paid for Brewery Road, and that was in 2019. The win I did get is that we changed what formula. The state allows you to use two formulas to build a emergency fund for your sewer plant. And we were using A, and B was more reasonable, so we had all this extra money that we shifted into what we're calling the stabilization fund, because that was opened up. That you could use that for more things. So you gotta remember, we paid 800,000 for Brewery Road to the sewer. Wasn't that the number?
That sounds about right.
So we're at 2.4 and we paid off an $800,000 item a year ago. It's interesting because I've heard a number of members here talk about how high the sewer rate is, and I think we even looked at all around the state on what people were doing and everything like that, right? Wasn't that what you led? So this is an opportunity to fulfill, and I heard at the forum, everybody talk about watching the sewer rates and wanting to lower them. Here's an opportunity to do it. Here's an opportunity to fulfill your one of your goals that you wanted at the last forum for the candidates. I just don't see a reason not to.
Part of my reason is we just got a sheet that says $5 million, and I understand we can borrow, but it's also nice to have the assets on hand in an emergency situation. Or, hey, let's just replace the electrical MCC.
I don't
know
know.
it's all involved without having to borrow.
Right, but we can do that right now. We can do it right now. Right now, Jerry could have put something on the CIP saying, I want to use this amount for the electric. And we wouldn't have to borrow, just like with Brewery Road, we didn't borrow anything. There's money there, and there's gonna be a continued flow of money in there. I mean, we're putting almost we're putting over $250,000 into this a year in cash.
I think that's reasonable and there's still money left. I've talked to many residents and neighbors and friends about our sewer rates. The biggest thing I share is why we can't hook up to Madison and why we can't hook up to Iowa Dane. I talk about the beautiful area we live. I do think $10 a month or $15 a month matters to some families, and I think it's done, you know, responsibly and conservatively, so there's still fund balance. I mean, there's still balance to take care of emergencies. When you pay off your mortgage, you don't keep it going. You don't save as much, you make a decision. I think it's reasonable. I'd be in favor of it.
You want,
No.
the other thing, it doesn't take effect until January 1st or July 1st. So if someone wants to do the research and can prove my numbers wrong or come up with something that I missed, but I think this is pretty straightforward. There can always be a modification. It's not going to take effect for another 8 months, so. And Bobby can crunch the numbers to reassure you all that my numbers are correct, but a lot of these numbers are from the audit and the budget and directly from her, so I can't see where my errors would be, but certainly it's happened before. All right, let's just do a motion, unless there's,
Well, I was gonna make a motion.
okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna make a motion to implement a sewer rate reduction of 10% on July 1st, 2025, resulting in $65,000 reduction for the year. followed by additional 5% reduction on January 1st, 2026 for an annual decrease of $205.
I will second that one. All right, I have a motion and second discussion.
Better be right.
Well, we got plenty of time. You guys, if it's wrong, then we just bring it back and I'll take full responsibility. All right, you can all blame me. I have no problem with that. All right, roll call vote, please. Oh, go ahead.
Why did you decide to break this up into 2 reductions rather than just 1? Meaning there's 2 dates.
Because,
We still have to make a loan payment, 2025.
That's my question about it as well. I heard the.
what's that?
That's my question. We still have to make the loan payment in 2025. It doesn't.
Yep.
So then why don't we just have everything take effect on January 1st of 2026?
Because part of it is one, because the loan is actually paid off in May, so I want to show the public that we're watching this and we care about it and we're giving it back. And the 65,000 is covered by all the fees that were taken and increase on that. It's not gonna cut anything. It's not gonna change the 2024 budget. It's not gonna change the 2025 budget. So that's the reason why. It's $65,000. I wanted to get it, make it easy so it's right after the loan is paid off to show our interest in it. And then the next. But if everybody has a problem with that, like I say, it's not gonna be a fighting point. I think it's something for us to also look at.
It just seems that if we're looking to reduce rates, let's just do it once and try to make it easier rather than this double
But-
step. I mean,
Well, here's the
I
thing.
mean,
Here's where and that's a valid point, but I'm from the back just like we did with the leaf pickup. I like to do pilot programs and test things on a smaller scale, because there may be something I didn't see. In this way, we would see that and it gives us time to do it. So like I say, I don't know what all the processes are. So I kind of split it into small, 65 grand, and then cycle through. So there's some time to do it where it's not gonna be everything at once. That's the reason behind it. All right, anything else? Roll call vote.
Trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Borcar,
Yes.
trustee Brandt,
Yes.
trustee Calvater,
Yes.
trustee Brooklyn,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All righty. For discussion and action on the village ordinance 87.04 sub D window sign language change. And again, this was just following up on what I said we do after we had that last appeal for the windows. Basically, if you remember, the ordinance had it where if the sign was on the inside, it was okay, but it wasn't okay on the outside. So the language now doesn't matter what side of the window, everything else stays the same. And I thought that's what the group wanted, so.
And this is just a policy. We don't need a motion, right?
Yeah, we do, because this is actually a change in ordinance.
Oh. I make a motion to accept the new sign permit, or what do I want?
It's just window sign.
Window sign.
I'll second that. You got a motion in the second, any discussion, Michael?
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna be voting against this.
Okay.
I do, think that there's a difference whether or not you place a sign on a window or not on the interior or the exterior of the window. Being on the exterior of the window, I believe it becomes an on-building sign. There's no difference in placing it on a wall. Currently limited buildings that only have 2 on-building signs. Them being inside windows, they are more muted, they are less obvious. If you go down and look at Pro Physical Health, down next to Vintage, they have internal window signs and see them, but they're not right in your face. Reasons for that, I think, in our ordinance, and I agree with our current ordinance and not the new one, with the external signage being, or window signage being placed or allowed. And I believe that these are allowed in unlimited number if you're using the same language as what it was before.
Yeah, I didn't change anything but that, but, and Michael, it's not that I disagree with what you said. The only thing is the group all agreed on the appeal. And if we're gonna it's not fair to the administrator to deny something and then they bring it back and we automatically approve it, right? I mean, that's the only thing that, it just seems like it's not a good process.
I understand why
Okay.
it's here, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, no, perfect. All right, we better do a roll call vote then.
Yeah, one more question, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So the current language. Sign located in a building. With a face to the exterior window, and we're just changing that to be, that it has to be an exterior window visible from the exterior of the building.
No,
It's attached either way.
yeah,
It doesn't matter if it's on the inside or the outside.
It's just attached to an exterior window and visible from the exterior.
Oh,
hallway.
okay,
Whether or not it's
yeah.
yeah, because
Attached to an exterior window, I was reading that as, never mind, okay, I'm good now.
It just can be either on the inside or outside.
yeah,
So
if it's a
that's-
total intern, we don't care. It's not our business. All right. Roll call.
Trustee Paul Mikowski,
No,
trustee Brooklyn,
Yes,
trustee Calvater,
Yes.
trustee Bratton,
Yes.
trustee Borger,
Yes.
trustee Brenner,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, number 5 is discussion and possible action on village ordinance 5.01. Sustainability Committee staff person. I've been asked to postpone this to October, so I'm inclined to go ahead with that. So do I have a motion to postpone this one to the October
I'll
meeting?
make a motion to postpone this item until the October meeting.
I'll second
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So move. All right, we're at, discussion and possible action regarding future location of the Cross Plains Pool. Mike.
Hello, everybody. All right, in front of you, first, I'd like to apologize. I noticed a few typos in my recommendation. I was kind of I rushed through this last week, to get to Carly and get Bear Park all ready for the car show and things, so I'll ask you to discuss that a little as we go. Following the village board meeting in January, the board, all of you had taken the pool feasibility study from Architecture Planning LLC, and more or less wanted the pool feasibility committee to put together a placement for a new pool, the location of a pool, and also come up with a few timelines in regards to when this would happen, along with some funding indications in there. Following that meeting, the pool feasibility committee, along with the Parks and Recreation Committee, approved a survey of which we put out on April 16th, went through June 15th. We went to the annual meeting with the community for them to look at the poster board that we had along with the QR code with that survey. We set up a table at Trout Days the following week for the community to go through and look and kind of give us feedback in regards to the location for the pool. And then we had the board itself sitting up at the pool for the next month or so through June 15th for that end date. Following the June 15th date, we received about 263 responses from the community in regards to where they'd like to see the pool located. The pool it was very close. As obviously we didn't have everyone in the community provide us with feedback, but it was very close. And it came out to be that the new pool facility should be located at the Bear Park facility or east of Bear Park in the future. So what the pool feasibility committee, along with the Parks and Recreation Committee, are looking for is for the village board to approve that either via resolution or yet another way to do that. Mainly so that we can start that capital campaign, knowing that this is not a bake sale type thing that we can do to come up with some funding. It's going to take some time and going to take some energy from the committee and from the community itself to be able to fund something like this. So what we're looking for from you is to solidify that location.
All right, Judy.
So we don't have prices on either yet.
We do have conceptual prices, obviously, I mean, the design aspect of what we're looking for, you know, the two things that we really came up with is that we wanted 0 depth entry and 8 lanes. Those are the two major factors within the building of a pool. So what architecture had provided you back in January, what were those concepts? And he did put prices within those, so, I would say, in general, the price that he came up with was anywhere from 4 million to 6 million, depending on what the village decides to do.
On either location, what is that?
Correct, yeah, the layout and or placement or what the pool looks like, the 0 depth and the 8 lanes are the only thing that we really, you know, guaranteed going forward, so. Obviously, they're two different looking plans, but in general, they come up to the same price.
And like you said, there's only like 352 that really responded out of a town of 4,000 or 5,000. So I don't feel comfortable voting on this yet tonight, I'm just gonna tell you that, for the fact I don't feel like we have enough feedback for the whole town to say where to put it, or even to do it or what. Because I feel like.
I guess I disagree, I think
well,
they.
Hang on, let's have, I have Cameron, and then I'll have Bobby, and then I'll have Sarah.
So, Judy, how do you propose to get more feedback? Cause there's been
A
a survey.
referendum. I think we need to take it to a referendum,
You wanna put it on the ballot on the location of the pool?
or anything, yeah, and what, how it can affect your taxes.
Okay.
All right, well, yeah, everybody, we gotta,
I was just gonna say the same thing, like, we had the survey out there for well over a month, it was at, you know. Website, it's here, I think that if the community wanted to respond, they had ample time.
okay, Sarah?
And that's what, I mean, I wanted to add that. I also think part of having a committee is so that you have a group of people who take the time to research this, because not only did we look at what the community was giving, we also really thought thoroughly about the pros and cons of the two different locations. And I had so many different conversations with people, with different community members at different events, listening to them even talk more about it. So I feel like there was a lot of thought put into this, and I feel like any decision made within a community about something such as that, like when we're deciding things for the new village hall, we're not going to go to a referendum to make a decision about every aspect. Like, did we go to referendum for the location of that? No. So I guess that's why I'm confused about why, I don't know, I think it's a similar thing.
Okay, here's where I'm coming from. I agree with a lot going on. I think if you go to referendum, it would be more on the cost of it versus a location. If you go, I'm not a big fan of referendums. I believe that's what we're elected for. But I guess what I didn't see in there, and maybe I missed it, is you talked about the pros and cons of each spot. That is what I'm thinking I'm missing here, unless it was in there and I just didn't see it. You know, cause I know when we did the village hall, that was a big discussion item on location. Now, they were for different reasons, but we talked about not having, one of the reasons that I would think would be applicable to this too, was we didn't want it there because there's only one way in, one way out, and how the school blocks the road. I'm just giving an example.
Won't happen with the pool, because it'll be open when school's closed.
Right, no, but what I'm saying is it's still one entrance, and then there was, I thought, if I remember the first, I don't remember something, but people had concerns with it over there because kids would have to cross Church Street. You know, the majority of the village people, I'm just going from back in Jan, so that's the only thing that would be helpful if we had something that had all the pros and cons to it. So we have the popular vote. You know, you did what you can, and you were at a lot of spots. I saw you, you know, at our annual meeting. I saw you in the parade with that. I've seen it down here. So you did your best effort to get it that way. The only thing is for us now, when we make that decision, I'm not sure policies, we should just go with popular vote. I think that is part of it. I think that is something that needs to be weighed in. But I would also like, if you can just give us a little bit more, like I say, I'm just spitballing on what I kind of remembered. I remember the traffic thing on one and the safety for the other. And then there was the whole thing that the library wanted us out because there's a potential of expanding the library. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It seemed like there were a number of pros and cons, and I guess that would have been helpful in making that decision here.
Yeah, that wasn't in this packet, it was in your prior packet.
Yeah, I thought so.
Pros and cons list with what Blake had provided you, but I can definitely get you those things. I mean, honestly, the pros and cons are very similar to each site, about the same. As we
Okay.
look and see, and we're thinking more, the group in general, the feasibility committee did take the cons into account, much more than probably the pros, I'd say. More based on the fact that the village growth aspect of things is going to happen, and it's going to happen east. So we're thinking more like 20 and 30 years down the road, we can more or less change those cons. The major con aspect of it all was what Jay had brought up, and that's people, pedestrian use or pedestrians going across Church Street. We now have an RFP up there, allowing flashing lights. People are getting more used to having to stop, you know, for kids at the middle school. So I think that just continues as, you know, that comes into play. And those are things that the committee in itself really talked about. And I don't think anyone really had a, you know, they didn't have their own opinion necessarily in that. They really did take from the community, like, what are some of the things, what are some of the, you know, problem areas that we could accompany this type of project. And that was pedestrian crossing was the number one. The other one was parking, of which obviously we can attend to up on the new site, that we can't necessarily accompany with the current site the way it is, along with where the changing of the building and things would be, so.
But I did think that, and I think it was because of the additional parking, I did think, if I remember, I thought the Bear Park one was like $1 million more than the current one, if I remember.
The only increase in the costs are really based upon what you would do with the current site.
Oh, gotcha.
So obviously and what I put in the memo aspect of things was, you know, looking at the comp plan, looking at our parks and open space plan, two things that came across to those were ADA type playgrounds, or what are we allowing for inclusive use within our community, and also a splash pad. Those two things have come up probably just as much as a new pool. Talking with Blake before, and that's how we kind of came up with scenario D, was being able to repurpose the current site to offer a splash pad, as we already have a pump, we already have a surge tank, we have filters actually that are brand new. We wouldn't necessarily need to use that size of filter for such. However, we have everything almost in place that could provide us with a splash pad at, you know, pennies on the dollar in regards to what we would be going forward with. But scenario D did provide for almost the same concept in regards to the pool costs. So the pool costs, we try to keep in that same range of 4 to 5 million. Because that's about the base cost right now to build these facilities. Evansville just built one last year, just finalized everything, and they spent almost $7 million. So, and they're actually smaller than we are, but they're able to pull that off. So.
Cody?
I kind of have to agree with Judy on this, and having been on the Parks and Rec, chairing the Parks and Rec committee, working with the pool feasibility committee. I made it very clear that I don't think we had enough numbers, and part of that might have been my fault. I tried to get more people to fill out surveys, but 6% of the village for a $6 million project, I don't feel like that's enough. I mean, I was just sitting here saying, I don't know, about $10 a month for a water bill, and it's like, I don't know.
Let me just clarify, while there's only, 300 and some, if you look at, that would represent family, that you can't use that against the 4,100. There's 1,200 homes, I believe, so, you know, it's a bigger number than the 6%, because the 4,100 includes your kids and that, and we didn't have you vote, how many kids you got? 3. So we didn't have you do 5 votes. You did 1 vote representing 5. And I just want to throw that out as a statistical thing, that you can't go against total population because it's a family that's voting. So
But I voted 10 times. You can vote more than once.
There may or may not have been families.
Yeah,
that voted
I'm telling you,
multiple
I
times.
myself, I know I was on there more than once. that I voted.
I don't think you voted 10 times. It counted you once. I did see it.
Really?
It has your email unless you use.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually they have a blocker in there, if whatever computer it came from, it only allows you to do one.
One ID.
So, Peter. Well, now we know.
Yeah.
We're not putting you in charge of elections.
I just wanna I wanna make sure the whole community is represented. I've had chats with Michael about equalized value and what it would do to taxes. When I look at
They needed one.
when I look at this graph of 70% of people want it here, 30 want it here, but then you read through the comments, the people that took the time. There's a lot more people that want it at the existing facility versus the number shown up here. So
No, go ahead, Sarah, and
I was
then
just gonna say,
Cameron.
when you're bringing up the money, though, we're not asking them to approve that we're going to spend all
Right.
this money, we're asking them, where should we locate the pool?
Right,
So we
Go
can
ahead.
start
Yeah,
funding.
that's what I was gonna say. We can't take the next steps until we decide on a location and getting the price and all that. Going to referendum for that seems a little insane to me. We didn't do that with Village Hall. We didn't do that when we were talking about a baseball facility there. I mean, now why are we talking about referendum? This is the whole point of democracy. These people elected
Okay.
us to help them make decisions.
and here, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Because we pick a spot. Doesn't mean you're gonna support the financial layout of what has been recommended. Because I think we're at the stage that we have to pick a spot. I'm very indifferent on it. I'll be honest with you. The pros and cons that I see really weigh each other. So, but we have to make a decision because the process isn't gonna move forward until you get a location and then they can do the next step. And quite frankly, I think sometimes we think the public has a bigger interest than what they do. I'm guessing the majority of people don't care what site it's at. Because again, not that many use the pool, it's only families usually. So, you know, like I say, I'm in that category, I wanna support a pool, but. I'm not really, like I say, not one of the spots jumped to me out that's much better than the others. I clearly see, and the parking to me is a big part, but I do like where it's located in the central where a lot of people can get to it. I mean, like I say, I can go back and forth on the pros and cons, and I think that's why it's somewhat close. It's not like 90% one way or 95, you know.
Well, yeah, even within the committee, obviously staff, like for me, it really doesn't bother me where it's at either. I'm
Yeah.
with Jake, like I'm obviously going to it wherever it's at in regards to it, but. And I felt like the committee in general was the same way, you know, they really just wanted to hear from the community and and Cody being on the feasibility committee and Parks and Rec committee. I didn't hear this, at those committee level things, so next time I'll hear those.
I did, I brought it up all the time. I
Well,
said like, we need more community input.
But what
And
would
we
be a
need-
number for you?
What's
I mean,
I
I would
remember hearing that, but I will say, like, going forward, you know, if the board wants to see something else, like, what is that? We need more clarification, and because right now, I'm not even setting up meetings with the pool feasibility. We're gonna lose a ton of steam with them, and I'm not setting it up with Parks and Rec, because it's just like we're at a point of solve, right?
No, this group has to make that. The question is, so I hear Judy and Cody, so what would be that magic number that you would be satisfied at the level of input from the community?
more than 263 votes.
Where do we-
Okay, but that doesn't help them at all. I mean, is it 500? There's 1,200 units, if I remember right, in the village here.
How many?
1,200, isn't that, for some reason, that sticks in my head that
I think
we,
it might be a little more than that now, but at least 12.
So just to put this in perspective a little bit. The Village of Cross Plains goes out and does a comprehensive plan where you put a lot of information in there about where you want this village to go, projects that you're going to fund, things that you are doing over the next 10 years, right? That's our kind of game plan of how we're gonna do things. We received 236 comments from people, from the community. That's less than we received in both of our surveys that we provided to the community itself. That's less. And inside that comp plan, it's 35% of those people favored developing a new outdoor pool. And 50% of those people thought that we needed a new location for the pool. That was in our comp plan in 2018.
I was gonna say.
So what more information do we need, or how do we go out and
But
solicit?
But that's the big, Mike, you just hit it. 50% said that we need a new spot, 50% wanted to keep it there.
Right,
So, well,
So, yeah.
but that's, I'm just saying, we've done it
It's gonna
3
be-
times. We've done it 3 times now.
no, I understand it, but what I'm saying is there isn't this slam dunk
I
location.
don't think you're ever getting that with an old school and a new school, or, you know, whatever you may have, because you have part of the community that always wants to see the pool where it's currently at. And you have the other side of the community, the new people coming in, and others that don't really have a care either way, they just wanna see a new facility. I mean,
Do you think you would have more people voting if they knew the cost difference?
there were a couple comments in there that.
Yeah, I saw the ones,
asked
but
about
how
that.
can we even do it without?
It's just like, it's kind of, so when we did the village hall, you guys talked about that, like, where's that going to be located, right? We had the land over here, we had the land over here, we had the current space. We didn't talk about how much we were spending on it, so put it in the location. I mean, it was just, let's choose the best spot, you know? There wasn't,
Well, there's always been a tag to it.
but the tag was the same. We didn't know.
No, you're correct
Yeah,
on
we
that,
didn't know the cost, so right
but we
now,
always had budgeted to 5 million.
sure.
That
So-
was always out there.
So what I've been telling people when they ask the question about how much a new pool is, I say at a minimum, it's $4 million. Because honestly, at this point, I really have no.
No, that's valid, but like I say, that's another step down the road.
Sure, I agree.
What needs to happen is, I think for what I'm hearing from you is for the 2 committees to move forward. This board has to make a decision on location, because everything now is, based on basically the location and moving forward on how that's going to look.
Right.
Doug,
I'll just say something quickly. I don't have a problem committing to a location tonight based on the feedback I've been given, the survey results, and just, I think, knowing some of the community. I also think the alternative site has more flexibility for keeping the pool open while you're building, has more room for parking. I would prefer if there's a splash pad that it's at the same site. Just cost wise, I think we have too many buildings in too many different places for our size of community. I think you could reinvent something, maybe even private. That's where the existing pool is. It's a beautiful spot in the center of town. That might be a nice place. All kinds of things privately that we could get a little kickback by selling that piece of property. Think outside the box a little bit. So I'd be okay with the Bear Park location. However, I think regardless if the pool goes there or not, we need to find a way out east of Glacier. And that should be a part of this plan too.
And that's what the pool feasibility committee and the parks committee said as well. Like, that's the one thing we need to.
I think we've always recognized that's
Right.
the problem with really going forward with our property there is we're limited until we get that
Right.
second outlet. I think we all agree with that.
But on those couple of reasons, I mean, I'm fine directionally saying it.
Okay, so I guess somebody needs to make a motion in the positive for one of the locations.
I would like to make a motion that the Parks Committee and Pool Feasibility Committee pursue putting the new pool at the Bear Park location.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion?
No,
Go ahead, Michael.
I guess not. I'm a little torn as well. I like the centralized location. I'm a little taken back that I didn't get any emails from anybody. I was gonna at least like get one on this topic, but like nobody emailed me concerning this. So that's where. Can I ask you a different question?
Absolutely.
In terms of the layout of the 2 pools, does one seem to be more usable for doing things? I mean.
So with the space. So one thing that I will say, with the space that we have at Little Park, this is what we talked about. There's opportunity for us to have more things happening at once. So if swim team per se is taking the lanes, we have more opportunity to do other programming, whether that be swim lessons, whether that be water aerobics. mainly because we have a little bit more space to use,
Well,
that facility.
that looks like the diving well is like a separate, it's not in the lanes. Like
Correct.
how I have to.
And this is just concept. by the way.
Okay,
So this could still
could
change. However, this is the concept that we would be going out with the community, trying to start to solicit support. It could, we would let that be part of it, knowing it could change. Obviously, the village board makes that final decision on the layout, construction, all those sorts of things, but that's just a concept. But yes, I would say in general, the Bear Park concept of
Cameron?
Just putting out some other outside the box ideas. There is a really, really cool sledding hill that no one in the community knows that we have back there. That is, I mean, our neighborhood uses it all the time. I wish more people in the community used it. So even in winter, having something in this location, if we did the ice rink in the parking lot again, now you have a sledding hill and ice rink and a facility. I don't know if it would be heated or not, but you could do winter events in the building, right? You could have hot cocoa and s'mores and sledding and a bonfire and all. I mean, like, we need to start developing that area. It's good and it's gonna be good for the community. You know, I'm not sure why we keep sitting on this beautiful plot of land that right next to a park, right next to a school, and not using it for parks and recreation activities.
Didn't you say the opposite of that for a rec center? though?
Thank you.
Did I?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's stay focused. Let's stay focused on the pool. All right, any other discussion related to the pool? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna close discussion. We're gonna do a roll call vote. And the motion is to forward our recommendation that the two groups continue to move the project forward using the Bear Park location as the spot. Michael.
Now, with regard to the Bear Park design, we don't really have a plan for that land, do we? Or there's one that's been sort of made?
Yeah,
We have
we have a number of conceptual
Plans.
plans for them. Yes.
Right,
That states it that in the comp plan there.
does this conflict with those, with how this is being used in terms of placement of soccer fields, et cetera, on that property?
No. I'd say it doesn't, I mean, it kind of fits in to what we're looking to do, in that space. You know, and those plans were never adopted by the village. board.
Right. they
So
were-
you could always still move things around in any way you wanted to with ball
Yeah.
fields or other things. I would say going forward though, I've kind of given this pledge to the school district and to Brian Finnell that at some way we'll obviously be building this into place to still allow them to do their cross-country meets, as this has been their home for all their varsity meets. So we thought, we even kept that into our design, conceptual design with Blake when he was putting this together to make sure that we were looking out for those. So we've kind of, within that plan, we did the same thing.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kettleweiser,
No,
trustee Brooklyn,
Yes.
trustee Tomakowski,
No,
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Borford,
Yes.
trustee Brian,
Yes.
President Lincoln.
Yes. All right.
Motion was.
Yep. All right, number 7, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 operating base budget and supplement requests. So we're gonna do this in order. We have A to start with, Cross Plains Chamber of Commerce 2025 funding request. Yep. If you could click on, yeah, Mike, that's great, thank you.
It's a long time since I've seen you guys. So I am coming to do the formal request for our annual funding. Bear with me, this is not something I did last year. I do believe Brian Mooney may have done it in lieu of me since I was new. So I just have something I put together to brief you by all means and ask any questions you have after it. Yeah, this is just kind of my formal request for it. So the Cross Plains Area Chamber of Commerce appreciates the opportunity to present to the Village of Cross Plains Board of Trustees our request for financial support for the 2025 fiscal year. The Cross Plains Area Chamber of Commerce, CPACC, is requesting $10,000 funding support for fiscal year 2025. CPACC operations have thrived over the past year with new businesses becoming members, hosting multiple community events, inducing collaboration between local businesses and working to build stronger and more intentional relationships with and between member businesses. The CPACC organized a variety of community-based events from the annual dinner to the Trout Days Wine Walk, Memorial Day Chicken Barbecue, Golf Outing, and the upcoming Light Up Cross Plains Day. We are seeing an increased participation from local businesses and community members with this core group of events and look to repeat them all again in 2025. Highlights of 2024 include a new partnership with the town of Middleton to support the Black Earth Creek and Trout Days. We had a highly attended and successful Trout Days and Memorial Day Chicken Dinner Barbecue events. Hosted the Golf Outing as a CPACC focused event. We'll be able to highlight way forward resources, and though member rates were raised. You remember that conversation we had in February? We retained over 70% of our member businesses. As part of this, our board has begun visiting member businesses on a monthly basis to provide personal connections and check-ins. Something will continue to do in 2025 as well. The $10,000 requested funding will be used to continue our efforts in building stronger and more intentional relationships with member businesses. With this, we intend to provide opportunities for businesses to have a greater platform through a new website and social media strategies, hold a strategic planning session, something that the chamber has not been able to do previously, incrementally grow the events and reintroduce networking events into the Cross Plains business community. We thank you for considering our fiscal year 2025 funding request. Sincerely, the Cross Plains Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, as represented by myself, Shelby Baker, the Executive Director.
I got a question for you. If I remember right, the town of Middleton was at a 5-year deal, 5,000 per year, right?
Yes, so they are sending over $5,000 per year, and that is then going, 4,000 of that will go to the Black Earth Creek watershed. And then $1,000 will stay directly to support the Trout Days event. So this past year, that went towards the live music. And we will just find different ways in which it can support the Trout Days event then.
Okay, so help me with 4,000, the Black Earth watershed. Are you talking about the monitoring system of it?
Yes, I know that went into the legalities, a little bit above my headspace, but through the legalities of the tourism money that they get from the one hotel there.
Right.
Then that has to go towards something tourism related. They requested to go towards our Trout Days event, being that.
Right. No, I was part of the deal, but I thought we ended up getting, the situation is they do have a room tag. The unfortunate, they don't have a tourism
Correct.
Thing. So we don't have anybody that we're collecting, but yet we have a lot of tourism here. They didn't want to pay the amount that they were all asked. All of us have been asked down the creek, pay so much for the Black Earth Creek monitoring. They didn't really want to do that, so because of the amount we did, it was my understanding they were gonna we're paying a little bit more on that, but they were gonna shoot some of their tourism dollars to us. So I thought all 5,000 was going for tourism. You're saying 4,000 of that is actually going towards the monitoring?
Correct.
So it just filters through you?
That is how I understand it, yes. And then, but then we are paying, and Royce Weiss, our treasurer, will be able to speak a little more to this. So then we are making that contribution to the watershed monitoring system, and then $1,000 will go directly towards the Trout Days. And it was at the Trout Days just planning committee, they delegated where that $1,000 would go to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how the 4,000 is tourism when it's going to the monitoring, because that's what we were trying to work around. They didn't want to take it out of their levy limit. They wanted to, because they have a fairly good sized budget for tourism, but they didn't have any once the sunflower event fell out. So that's how I thought it was being worked out. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Any other questions? We've had a phenomenal year. It's been really, really exciting. And so this has been marks just over a year for me that I have been part of the Chamber of Commerce. It's been extremely rewarding and exciting, and I'm really, really excited for 2025. Some great businesses have obviously come into town. So we are looking to continue growing our business community and the members. We have some really, really active businesses in Cross Plains, so it's been really, really an awesome opportunity to keep going.
And was that, I guess I can't say, was that included in the base budget that we got? Okay, so we don't need to take any extra action right now.
No,
No, that'll be covered in the base, okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Shelby? All righty, well, thank you very much,
Well, thank
appreciate
I
you
will
stopping
see you
by.
all, back again later this winter to kind of give more of a January, February, it's just a full 2024 recap of the chamber for you.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you, yep. All right, we have B, that's the base budget, that was this document here. The one with all the numbers. And as she said in her memo, it was a 1% increase. What they could. Are there any questions for Bobby on this? I just have one. Will the numbers in here be represented in the big budget when it's done? Will they be dollar for dollar? Or are there some of these numbers adjusted, for example, increased revenue or something like that?
no.
No, okay.
I guess I do have a question. She said 1% increase, but it looks like it increased 1.47%.
That's because of, I think the EMS, like if
Yeah.
we just put EMS in there at 1%, the whole thing would have been 1%.
Oh,
EMS was higher.
Yeah,
okay,
so that's what's setting.
okay. That was my question.
Cameron?
And why was EMS higher? Because of all of the.
Because I get one vote only and there's
Okay.
3 votes that vote the other way.
Oh, it's set up the same as the fire district for the, okay.
Right. let's-
There's even one more now, so I'm only 25% on that one.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I don't think we'll make it. But we're not gonna make it in 2024, we're not gonna make it.
EMS might actually be a little different than that. I think I might have gotten an updated number since August 23rd, so that might be up a little bit, but not much, right? That's more like 290
Yeah, it might be, but we're still not,
Yeah.
like I said, we're gonna be able to cover the deficit this year. Only because we got the payment from insurance. But it's not gonna, unless revenues go way up.
And then the fire number, I guess, would change.
Uh,
We
that-
haven't got any numbers from.
No,
that
but our preliminary one was less than 1%, if I remember right.
It was very small because there was no major expenditures this
Right, right,
next year.
yeah.
Okay, good.
I think a little bit on utility was the only thing. It's very hard there because he bills in capital, so like there was no, the capital is down from, so it goes way down and, you know, it's not gonna go way down for operating, but anyways. When I looked at it, I thought it was 1% or less. But we'll know, we have a meeting Tuesday, I think, right? Next Tuesday?
Yep.
All right, any other questions on the base budget? Do I have a motion to accept the base budget?
I'll make a motion to accept the base budget as presented.
All right, I have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, we'll go to supplemental request, A. Library cleaning service, Elizabeth.
So we have had the same cleaning service since 2006. They left our rates flat. As you guys know, costs have increased dramatically on everything since 2006. So next year we are getting, they are bumping it up. So it's $225 per month, which is like a 25% increase for us. And so this is just beyond the our other costs are also increasing, and so without doing a supplemental, we don't have extra to help, cover books and programming and all that other stuff that we need to help support.
Right, so I just have one question, because this is confusing. So the village is responsible for paying 25% of the library's clean,
Yes.
correct? So I understand why we would get billed for 25% of the 225 per month, right? But this request is to get 100%. If I'm looking at this, no?
I think their portion is 225. Right?
Yeah, so I did for like the 75% of the total. Does that make sense? It's a weird,
Yeah,
confusing.
no, I-
section. So
okay.
Bobby also submitted one for the village portion.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Okay.
Times 12 is 2,700.
And then now I'll go times 0.25. I don't, I forgot to bring my scratch sheet, but
I mean, cause it would be, 12 times 200, it would be $2,400 plus. $2,700 would be the whole amount, I think. 2,700, so,
225 is 75% of.
yeah.
27.
but you're increasing this by 2,050.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's more than 25%.
25.
That's what I'm trying to-
Times 12 is
Help me out here.
Well,
What's 25% of 2,700?
2,700 and 25% is calculator's being stupid. 7 and
Did you do that?
0.15.
This is gonna be really embarrassing.
6750.
No, it'd be 600.
$675.
Right, 4
$675,
times,
yeah.
because 2,700, 4 goals, you do at least 4 times,
675.
let's just say 9.
2,700 times 75% is $2,025.
But we only pay 25%.
But this is the
This is
library's
25%,
asking the
2,700.
increase.
But that's my, okay, but they're asking for an increase in their budget from us. Right? If we say yes to this, this means we're gonna up it by we're gonna up it to 9,850. I'm saying whoever pays the other 75% should be paying their share of it.
Well,
No,
So
We're
there's
paying-
75%.
This is the 75%.
Yeah,
On
so
the
this-
next one is the 25%. That is.
Well, then we're paying 100%.
But it's library
Right.
fund
Yeah.
versus general.
Right.
It's
fund.
library fund versus.
So like,
general.
this goes.
I don't care how you cut it. I understand it's coming out of both, but they're different pockets, but it's both coming out of the village
Yes.
pocket. And if the village has an agreement to only pay 25% of the cleaning of the library, we should only pay 25% of that.
But she's saying the library needs the other 75% to.
Well, they should get it from Dane County or Library Services or something like. I don't understand why we're then paying 100%. So it's meaningless to put this in and for 25% the next one. If we're paying 100%, we pay 100%.
So.
But right now, we're paying over. We're not paying 25%.
Sorry, do you want to?
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I was gonna say, so we have been covering, like last year, the compensation plan. All of the extra library compensation that was included as part of that plan came from Dane County funding. We did not get a bump in funding from the village. We have, circulation is up 20%, programming is almost 100% up. Like, we are doing a ton of stuff and it's being funded right now. All of the extra costs of that are falling on Dane County. We are part of a shared system. It's fantastic, it's wonderful, but also our core service population is the village of Cross Plains. At some point, like, the increased cost of doing what we're doing for the majority of people that we're doing it for living in the village would be coming from the village, not from Dane County.
And I'm not gonna argue that point. My point is, if the wording in some document says the village will be responsible for 25% of the cleaning of the library, that's 25%. if we decide now to cover 100%, then this is, we don't need all this, makes things complicated. Now we're covering 100, because this, you're asking 75% here, and then in the village one, the next one, that's what was confusing. We're asking another 25%, so just say we need 100% of our cleaning. Right? Because that's what you're doing.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
It's just because it's two different funds, we filled out two different sheets.
Cause like the
but
75.
there's some history that the village pays 25% of the cleaning.
Yes.
Right? There's a document, there's gotta be
Yeah,
a
I have no
document.
idea, it, since I've been here, it's been that way.
They even pay a percentage of the utilities of that building. The
Right,
building.
I understand that. I clearly understand the concept of that, but my question is if we're no longer enforcing that. That's one thing but that's gotta be a decision of the board. The way this is set up right now, the request of the library is to pay 100% of their cleaning. That's what we're dealing with. That's all I'm trying to get across.
I don't, but we're not, I mean, like, the village provides a majority of our funding.
Yep,
Because you have to do at least 75% to be exempt from Dane County tax, library tax.
yep.
So like, we are getting that chunk of money from the village to go into the library fund to use towards cleaning. But I think, and this was all set up before I was here, the 25% for both utilities and cleaning, I think, is to cover the community room. Since that's like the free meeting space for the community.
I can just tell you, because I was on the board when this all, and this was another one of those. Where there was a lot of conflict in it, right? So then there was this long list of what we were gonna pay. We didn't want to take 100% of it because town of Berry, town of Cross Plains use it, right? So they went down the list, and Michael's right, we went down and, okay, we'll pay 25% of the cleaning, we'll pay so much for the utility, and then. The library has their own budget, obviously we feed into that, right? But that's your discretion, once we give you the money, you can put it wherever you want. There is no budgeting, so we can give you 100% of cleaning, and you could choose to not use it for that. So that's how it got broken down, because. You know, some people have a kind of, and I'm kind of in that where. That if the village should pay for certain costs, right? But, and I'm not arguing that, the problem with it is once we give the money, it doesn't necessarily go to that. It has happened in the past where we've given money for one thing and it's gone to something else, that we probably wouldn't have funded. So that's why things got written down on how much, so if we're changing this, then we should change it, all right? We shouldn't say that we're paying 25% of cleaning and end up taxing everybody for 100% of cleaning. And I know it's a small number, but it's, we just gotta clean things up, because this makes no sense to me that there's this increase and now we're paying the library plus in our another supplement, another part of it. Just say we're paying for the cleaning. That's where I'm trying to get. That's why it didn't make sense to me. Judy.
When I read the numbers, it makes sense, but I'll do whatever. But when I run $225 a month, comes up to be like $2,700 a year. The difference between these two numbers, what we budgeted, what we proposed is $2,050. Where 25% of 2,700 is actually $675. I feel like we should have been paying $675, not 2,050. So that's why I was confused.
Right.
Okay, so this is the 75% that would go to the library fund, and then there's a separate one for general fund for.
I was seeing 25%, not 75%.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But it's all coming out of our general fund, right? You understand that, right? We don't, it's all coming out of the same,
100%.
yes.
Yes, then I'm good. But I kept doing the 25 and I wasn't adding up, so that was.
I mean, this is still a very reasonable cleaning.
I think you can really cheap.
Good deal.
No,
I,
you're missing my point. We gotta start cleaning things up, right? So we have to find that document and change whatever it says.
so that it's not, I guess I'm confused, like, because the library is funded by tax dollars, you're funding 100% of.
The cleaning.
I mean, you could say the same for our, like, the public access telephone and the utilities as well. Like,
I-
yeah, technically the.
I
village is
haven't
paying 100%
been-
of
I haven't
this
seen
because-
your budget, but I know you have other revenue sources, so I don't know how you break down your budget. Do you break it down by revenue source or just by item, and revenue is just on top as one big chunk?
Yep, that's that.
Okay, that's. Okay,
I mean, because Dane County is not stipulating how we use their funds. You know, like they don't say you can only use it for X, Y, Z. It's part of whatever we need funding for to speak the flash, right?
all right. You have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the $225 per month increase for the library cleaning services.
No, second.
All right, any discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So since Dane County does fund, is their funding for the library increasing this year at all?
It is going up this year. Part of that is because, so a big chunk of what that is based off of is circulation. Our circulation, like I said, is up 20%. So we are getting a chunk of that, but that's not a guarantee. That goes up and down a lot. And so I don't want to be constantly assuming like, oh, we're gonna get more Dane County funding. We can cover extra costs these years. If the staff's going up.
Right, that's
We're
my
on
question. Can you use your increased Dane County monies
No
to?
increase in county money last year, Michael.
You could use them on this year.
And then every year I'm gonna get the same one, maybe the same county money for that. It's a
No,
village, I mean,
but-
it's an operational, like, building expense to keep the
No.
building in good condition. If the building belongs to you guys, if you
But
want it to
Michael's,
be scuzzy.
no, Michael brings up the whole
Yeah.
reason why they had this breakdown. Where the village was gonna cover this and Dane County would cover this. That's the whole history behind it, exactly the point that Michael made.
Yeah, and you also have an endowment fund that could cover this if you wish.
That is not what endowment money is for.
Okay.
That is
No, you don't wanna do
absolutely
that
not
for
what endowment money is
operation.
for.
All right,
There are other monies over there.
any other discussion?
Endowment.
Don't you have? You do have though a fund balance on your library fund, don't you?
Yep, so this year we're using, so we are spending some of that down in lieu of submitting SIP requests, to replace, a fan on our rooftop unit for our HVAC system. We are also getting a self-check machine in October, to help with the increased services that we're providing. To help people to do typically more with less. We are using fund balance for all of that. And just retaining that 20% I think the village also wants in their fund balance.
Well, thank you for using that rather than doing the fan.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. All right. Get to do another one.
Do you want me to stay for this one as well?
No, I think we've cleared it all.
Okay.
You've cleared how this is, so, we've kind of already done too, but, let's. Anybody, let's have a motion to,
Well, I think Judy's motion was, well, I don't know, we should maybe do a second, one, but.
just approve this one, how it's written. It's-
I make a motion to approve the general building cleaning services and Danecom supplemental request.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same, so moved. All right, police department. All yours, buddy.
It's this, you guys have already seen this. This is, I tried to get this passed before. And then we just, as part of the budget, we said we were just gonna go over budget. I'm a couple $1,000s over budget already, so I'm comfortable with 7. I mean, we're getting young, newer officers that need a lot of training. The money, although, it is a lot, 7,000 is a lot. A lot of it ends up being food, lodging, and to just get someone to go to training for a little bit. And when you have young officers like even Sergeant Hudson, who
is an investigator, I gotta send them to investigative schools, they're expensive. They're, different parts of the state. So things tend to add up really fast, and so that 5,000, I think you guys have had $5,000 in the budget for that budget item for decade, or way more than that probably. The good thing is before you guys had officers who had 30 years, 25 years, they, you could train them with next to nothing. You send them on a couple of real quick training. We're only required to train 24 hours of continued education to meet our statutory requirement. We're well beyond that, but it's necessary because especially small town departments, we're expected to do a lot. Bigger departments, they have specialized units. We have to be the specialized unit. So we handle anything from a death investigation to, car seat installs, and all those require certifications and maintaining those certifications. And so I'm just asking for a couple $1,000s to increase that budget. I feel like I would be okay. Maybe a more true budget than me stealing from Paul to pay Peter, which is what I feel like I'm doing now, which hurts me anyway, because then now I can't go and spend on some equipment that we might need. I might have to take from other accounts to make it so I don't go over budget completely. So that's the request.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to increase the training by police department budget to $7,000 for 2025.
I'll second. Any discussion? Cameron?
Procedural question. So we did see this before, but we didn't vote on it last time. That what happened, or?
Yeah, we moved it to be during the budget. I've done that with a lot. You saw some other items for wages and stuff. It's all moved because that's what will be discussed. You want to put them all together because there's limits, right?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and it was like.
Not so much there are some specific grants for certain training, so you can apply. They're always matching, and they're for the bigger schools, like a 5,000 class. We don't have officers at that level. There are officers that are still dealing with basic or secondary type trainings. Like for instance, if I wanted to go to a more advanced school, you could go away for 10 weeks, and it's probably, $5,000-6,000. You guys did have an officer do that, and something like that would require a lot of thought process, because I think you guys had a couple meetings on it, even to try to just approve it. So, but he also there was some funding there as well, because again, they housed him for, I think it was weeks. So, didn't work out very well. He didn't stick around, but yeah, so there are some, but.
And there's some free training too.
And we do take advantage of all the free training. So I partnered with Madison PD, the Dane County Sheriff's Department. If they offer training, we get it. We have a consortium with Mount Hora PD. Anything that they're getting, we get. So I do take advantage of the free stuff. It's just some of the stuff that's free is not from this area. So we have to travel out a little bit. And I try to also get them trained in their area. So for instance, Nikki and Hannah, when she was here, I sent them to conferences, women in policing conferences, to learn about how to just police as a woman in the 21st century in a very male dominated. So there's specialized trainings that then require a lot of lodging, food, and yeah.
Any others? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same, so moved.
Thank you.
All right, you were given 2025 draft wage and benefit budget, so that's what we'll be doing in October. That'll probably take a little bit more time because there's a lot of things that we'll be talking about on the benefit side. All righty, any future agenda items? All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so moved.